TPR.
But anyway, welcome to Roundup episode 9.
And welcome to Sweater Weather.
Yes. This is the October playlist for Hamnawa. As always, we have Zeerak. How did this month's playlist go in terms of collection?
It was too many songs. Like, that's why it took so long for me. Is because a bunch of songs in there have been there for a while, but there's just like so many new songs that came out that listening to all of them is just like a lot of work. I've been noticing, actually, I've been thinking since we've been doing this, I've been writing lesser than I used to. I used to write like twice a week religiously for like 2 years.
Right.
And then now I think just like as life has gotten busier and things have gotten like there's less time, I'm writing less, which I understood part of it was just me. But I think like since I've been doing these playlists, which is in the middle of last year, I am now listening and trying to like sort through more music. And I find that that's probably taking a chunk of energy, because I look back at the things I've written and there's two functions to it, right? There's one function is discovery, which is like music that you wouldn't have otherwise come across. So like, I don't need to write about an Atif Aslam song because you will hear about it. But like, if there's a song that like someone has 1,000 followers or 2,000 followers, that's really good and like is sort of, outplaying their audience. There's sort of that discovering those songs. And then there is, I think, like giving explanations to songs that are working well and trying to figure out why they're working well, and like, having a good discussion.
So people understand music better.
People understand music better. I think there's also just kind of an exhibition element to it, right? Like people like hearing, this is the whole reaction video element, which is that people basically like hearing nice things about things that they like.
Sure.
Like nice, it's good. So I think that's kind of partly my function. There's a sort of entertainment value there, but I think I have let go of the entertainment value for the curation value, because just the amount of music that you have to go through to get through like 10 or 15 songs that you like is a lot. So if you see the Taza Mal playlist now that I have on my profile, I think it's a lot of songs in there that I haven't even had a chance to like fully listen through. Tough but good. Good problems to have.
Do you think you feel like because you're talking about stuff over here, that function of explanation internally, you're sort of feeling like it's being addressed?
A little bit, but I should probably repeat more. I think it's helpful, because I think just doing it in my own head, sometimes it's hard to tell what things are real and what things are not, So if you can have an interesting discussion about them, then you can tell, this is something worth writing about or worth expanding on more, or so forth. And if I was writing more, maybe we'd have more things to talk about. I think it should only help. So hopefully more writing coming soon. But just lots of music.
So the first song, Cold Hours, you were insistent that had to be included, and I was like, I don't know what song this is. But when I heard it, I realized I had heard this song, not as a song, but as background music to Insta Reels thing. So basically just around the Mujhe Nahi Pata wala tag, where someone was just like, the sketch was like about a situation they don't have an answer to daily life. But the song is deep. Like, the lyrics are great lyrics. And like he says, and I was very offended, sort of pseudo offended in the lyrics.
I know what line you're going to say.
It's like, oh, I'm 20, but my problems are like I am 30. I was like, oh, how terrible to be 30. But
I don't know if I felt sympathetic or attacked or seen.
In these moments, I choose to feel attacked. But how did this song come to your attention? It is great. Is it very popular? It should be.
It is ridiculously popular.
Right. Okay. Great.
It has like 6 million on YouTube, 8 million on Spotify.
Wow.
It is crazy. And so Umair is big. Aleem, I didn't think was this big beforehand. So let's see. Like, it's Aleem's biggest song after is 800 on Spotify. Right? So and this is 8 million. So order of magnitude jump that has happened for him. So I think that's why it made sense. We had to talk about had to be on the playlist because of just like how big a hit it is and where it comes from, in terms of like that it's not a kind of Atif Aslam release, it's not a Coke Studio
Mm-hmm.
release. It is two indie artists literally put up a lyric video on YouTube. There is not even a video, and it is
Acha.
huge, right?
Yeah.
And so, and if you look at Aleem's audience on Spotify,
Yeah.
all the top 5 cities are all Indian.
Right. Okay. Yeah. 1.4 million monthly listeners. Yeah. Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Bengaluru, and Ahmedabad. Wow. And 42,000 followers. All of these, considering 8 million plays, is even bigger than all of those things.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I think if I'm not wrong, that Mohammad Shami, the Indian cricketer, used this song is one of his short form
Oh,
videos.
that would do it.
I'm sure there were other people also, but it's
Sure,
hard to
sure.
keep track. Like you can't go into TikTok and be like, show me the most famous people that use this video.
Yeah, yeah,
At
yeah,
least
yeah.
I have not figured out a way to do it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think so. How you discovered this song is really the story of it, right? Which is
Hmm.
that this song is perfect to be used in short form video, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, because it's essentially like an audio meme,
Hmm.
right? मुझे नहीं पता, मुझसे मत पूछो ना. Like that chorus can be used for so many different things.
Yeah.
And then I think once you use that as a discovery to the song, then basically the path you laid out is what happens. Is that there's a lot of depth to it. There is the writing is kind
It's
is
very
great
mature.
in this, very
Almost as if
mature
a
writing.
30-year-old wrote it. I
Right.
would continue to.
Aleem expects some hate mail from people in
Yeah.
their 30s.
People in their 40s don't know how to use the internet. तो उनकी खैर है. But yeah, it's just us.
I am angry like I'm 40 right
Yeah.
now. um,
Yeah.
I don't think there's like a repeated verse
No, no.
in the recording, which is
Yeah.
kind of crazy. Um, and there's a line in the song where he's like, "मैंने आगे बढ़ना होता तो मैं गाली गलौज कर देता, लेकिन मैं वो नहीं कर रहा." So there's
Yeah.
also that kind of referentialism. So it's all like kind of everyday problems. And then
Yeah.
I think as you get into it, um, people find more things that are apply to them in the
Mm,
song, in
mm.
the writing of the song. And so I think then it catches on. So even
Yeah.
with things that are big hits like this, I feel like there are things that are just memes, but this one is not just a meme. Like there is it it's built really well for to be used by people in their videos, and
Mm.
then the discovery lends itself to reward when you
Mm.
actually go listen to the song, and then
Mm.
people get hooked onto it because it is kind of catchy.
Yeah, no, it's very
uh,
catchy. And also, there's a variety of subjects. Like, I mean, of course, there's some sort of melancholy and lack of direction generally, thematically. But I think there's like relationship bits in there, there's success, fame, just life, a lot of these things. So it's not even about just one problem, where, like some girl left him or he left.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not shallow in that way. It's not about one
Yeah.
very simple thing. It sketches the image of a person that I
Mm.
think, if I don't know how true this is globally, probably true globally, but let's think about it in a Pakistan sense. If you grew up in Pakistan and you still have friends there, chances are a person that is similar to the person being described in the video, right?
Yeah.
A person
Yeah.
that has strong opinions, has goals that they feel capable of reaching, and they feel like they're driven, they are motivated, they are also intelligent, but also they feel to be somehow floundering in their life.
Yeah.
And it goes from like not being able to reach these goals, but also very simple things like not being in touch with people, which shows up here.
Mm.
Like तुम reply नहीं देते message का, तुम
Yeah. Yeah.
interactive नहीं रहे, social नहीं, and these are things that you hear, especially
Yeah.
from like you know I think young people will hear this from older people in their life, just like
Yeah.
you are no longer engaging, and I
And
think it's
even
a
that early 20s sort of phase, though, is also that late teen to young adult transition phase where you've left school, but there might be university, but then there might be future on careers, jobs, whatever, where your social circles and your relationship with those circles is also changing. So, and this is like true, I suppose, since forever. Only getting more true with social media, but like there were songs in the 80s about this, 90s, now, and currently as well, where this sort of vibe is a problem. I mean, there was like this whole. I had this like moment of I don't know if it would be philosophical, but some sort of human condition kind of issue. I was like, oh, even kids today have this, like this problem isn't going away.
No, I think,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a function of age, but I think we can probably all acknowledge that uh, levels of sort of depression, anxiety, like mental illness, especially in young people,
yeah,
fostered in part by social media, in part by the internet, in part by just like, economic struggles.
yeah.
In Pakistan, especially, all of those things become more acute.
Even at
Um,
least the awareness of mental issues,
right,
right? Because
right,
before it was just like, oh, someone's sad or someone's just difficult or unhappy, but
right,
now there's more language to even like frame those things.
right. And
Yeah,
I think about it in terms of the social impact of very small things. Like when we left college about 10, 15 years ago,
don't say
suppose
things
you
like
left
this.
a suppose we won't talk about what age that makes us,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you think about how much you pay for college
Mm,
in Pakistan. You think about how much you make as a job getting into it, and many years of your income would not pay for
yeah, yeah.
a good college, and that has only become more acute over time. And I think the fact that that leads to this sort of state with people where young people obviously want to get somewhere, right?
Yeah,
Like
of
young
course.
people are young people. Like
Yeah,
you can assume that young people want to get somewhere, and yet
yeah,
we have this entire generation that the generation above them is writing off as people that don't want to get anything done. And so
yeah.
there must be some systemic issue underneath. Um, and I think this just points to all of that. It's kind of also why I found hip hop interesting, because I feel it talks about these problems from that perspective in a much
Hmm.
more frequent and repetitive and consistent way than
Yeah,
many other kinds of music.
yeah,
It's not just hopeful optimism. There's a lot of kind of acknowledgement of bad circumstances.
yeah.
Um,
I think
and,
the
and I think
lyric heavy aspect of hip hop sort of really allows these problems to also be like more problems to be mentioned or more things to be mentioned than, for example, just like verse, chorus, verse, finished.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And it has to be much more direct. You can't hide behind
Mm.
metaphor as much. Like you are more likely, as we talked about before, like you can tell a full story in hip
Exactly.
hop, fictional or
Yeah.
non-fictional.
Yeah. Yeah.
This song, for example, is like, sketches an entire person. Like there's not a lot of wishy-washiness where you can enter your own
Yeah.
kind of experience in. It's very
Yeah.
directly talking about certain things, and some may appeal to you and some won't, but there's not a lot
Mm.
of empty space that you can add in. And I think it speaks to a lack of community also. Like clearly the character in the song has uh, people that they should be interacting with but aren't,
Sure.
right? And there is some craving of social interaction that there is very little energy for. And I think this points again to a kind of a lack of community in
Mm.
many of our cities. Like the cities are big, they're dense, people are
Disconnected
working,
though.
yeah, but there's a lot of disconnection, especially
Mm.
within young people. Um, and I think this is just something that we like need to acknowledge of with uh, how this affects entire generations. Like we've seen this, I think, in the Western world with older populations, like when they don't have in-home caretakers, like when they don't live with their family, like loneliness begins to have a big impact
Yeah.
on their health.
Yeah.
Um, we don't see that problem as acutely in Pakistan because older relatives tend to live with younger relatives in the
Yeah.
house. But I
Yeah.
think looking at the younger people in the house as a people that require that same level of community and interaction and being able to find people that uh, respond to them. I think that's kind of important. And for hip hop, I think just looking at it as a almost, a movement is I hesitate to use the word movement, but let's use that for a second
Right.
in terms of how much people are connecting with it, right? Like these songs about lack of connection or bringing people together. I think there's something to it
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
worth acknowledging.
Yeah. I know. I mean, it's just a sign of how well put together the song is, like from a conceptual and lyrical point of view, that we've managed to have so many branching discussions about, like, Pakistan and society and the human condition just based off this one song that somebody just wrote and is now very popular and is being used as meme background music, which
Good
is
for them,
yeah,
like it's I'm really happy to see this kind of growth, and they're so like they post about it with such kind of
yeah,
like kind of humble
yeah,
victoriousness,
yeah, yeah,
almost
yeah,
like it's
yeah.
like they've conquered everything. I think it made it like the global viral
It I
charts
mean,
on
I'm not
Spotify.
surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
so it's huge, and I think it's worth acknowledging. Like, good for them. Kind of really happy to see it happen. It's great that it's built off of something that has so much kind of substance to it as well. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. Aleem, if you want to come talk to us, I mean, even though we're old, we can work something out.
We
Um,
will tell you what it's like to be 30.
yeah, there are problems you have no idea about. I think let's talk about Kash Vopal. So Atif Aslam, I've had a curious relationship with, in the sense that he obviously doesn't know who I am. But remember back in the day when the biggest issue in Pakistani society was who was right, Jal or Atif. Uh,
Wow. It's,
yeah,
I feel like collectively we need to relive that moment and
yeah, yeah.
how crazy it was.
And it was great that that was the biggest issue. Like who was right and no economy. I think there was maybe a war going on next door, but our concerns could be compartmentalized. So I chose Jal. And
You chose Jal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I fully
I,
chose Jal. Yeah, yeah. And
actually, now that I think about it, I think Atif did come out of that looking like not like the bad guy, if
there
I'm
were a
not wrong, at
few,
that moment.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There were a few things.
Uh,
Testimony I received from Mikal Hassan, and it was in the news. And Atif's album came out quickly. It wasn't very well produced, and it really cast like a shady vibe on that particular crisis. But obviously, Jal has vanished. They never were able to attain the sort of success. Atif has become the king of the universe in terms of Pakistani music, and all of that seems very long ago. But what happened was that I never really got into Atif's music because I'm a very moral person.
I have principles.
Yeah. But now I find myself able to appreciate his music much more easily, especially since the past couple years of like the sort of reinvented Atif sort of music where he's sort of dipping his toes into modern hip hop R&B type music and working with younger producers. And I felt this song was also like great. I don't know if I like the original version, which I haven't heard, but this I found, very with the times, Gum Hour 2022, all those things. So yeah, what's your have you seem
So
like you sided with the wrong party at the time? Crisis
So
of
when I say Atif came out of it looking like the bad guy, I mean I'm making no judgment on what actually happened, because I think as more people have talked about it over the last few years, including Atif and Gohar also, which if you haven't seen their interviews with Samina Pirzada on YouTube,
oh
great,
no, I
especially where they
see.
talk about this stuff,
Okay.
amazing. Um, so I think obviously the story is much like more complex than
Sure,
we had
and
thought
also
when
they were children at the
right.
time, so shit
Yeah,
happens.
like the story is more complex than we would have been able to
Yeah,
assume in our 20s. But now that we are in our 30s, we can look at it with a little bit more wisdom.
yeah.
Um, the thing about Atif that really kind of strikes me as amazing is how all of that is so behind him,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you
It
know?
was generations ago, as far as
And I think by his second album, it was behind him.
Of course, yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was like, I think he sort of looked back, okay, it was a thing that happened and then didn't dwell on it at all. And you can just the amount of growth in his work as an artist and how fast he moves for an artist that big. That is what's
Mm-hmm.
amazing about Atif is
Yeah,
um, he released the song with Myra Khan in the video a little while ago, which everybody was like, oh, it's like a Hassan Rahim Manu song.
yeah,
And then Manu's written a few things for Atif recently,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so Atif is basically singing Manu songs now.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Manu's
yeah,
only been on the scene like 2 years.
yeah.
And to think that Atif is now singing songs, um, for an artist that is that big, has
Mm.
this much of an audience to move the needle so much so quickly. And I think Atif was singing Tajdare Haram like how many years ago now? Maybe like 5 or 6,
Yeah,
something around that number. Um, and if you अभी मैं Eid Milad Nabi पे लाहौर में था,
right.
and so every street corner that is playing Tajdare Haram is not playing the Sabri brothers version.
Oh
They are playing the
no!
Atif version
Wow.
everywhere. So Atif is
Okay.
like runs these cities in right,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
here he is being like lo-fi version.
yeah,
Hello
yeah,
cities, you are now behind. I am with the kids.
yeah.
So I think for me that is really the notable part about this, and to comment on the sort of greatness of Atif as an artist. that he is so far beyond anybody else in the industry that he is
Hmm.
not playing the same league. He's not playing the
Yeah.
same games. He isn't appearing on um, the same wavelength. I think even when he appeared on Coke Studio, like early on in his career, there was talk of how not to overuse him. Like he wouldn't show up many successive years in a row
Right.
because the idea was that it would just be too much
Yeah.
because he was
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
much of a star. Um,
And
so
like if you
I
think about it in the industry, what Jesse B है हमारी industry, there are, I don't know if there's anyone at his level, you know, that
Rahat
he's,
maybe
but Rahul doesn't do that many releases, popular releases even, he doesn't have that
definitely
sort
not for the
of,
kids.
yeah, yeah. Um and Rahat also, I feel like in my mind I've relegated him more to like a Bollywood plus Coke Studio kind of output.
Almost Shafqat Amanat Ali.
Almost. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But Atif has had Bollywood. Atif's been on Coke Studio, and Atif has independent releases quite regularly. Like every year, you look at least a couple Atif songs, or
So
maybe.
let's ask this way. Like I think if you look at it in terms of the all-time greats of
Hmm.
Pakistani music, right? Is
Yeah.
Atif where is Atif on that list?
I
Like
mean,
is Atif
firstly, he's
in
on the
terms of
list.
influence?
He's
He's
on the list
definitely on
for
the
sure.
list. I feel
Yeah.
anybody making the argument that Atif is not on the list is not invited to the podcast in the
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
Um,
I'll have to turn down so many people. No, but like, yeah, because the list that we're now quoting is like, people like Vital Signs, Junoon, uh,
Nusrat,
Nusrat. Oh shit, Nusrat. Yeah,
Alamgir.
Alamgir also.
I mean, but then you can go into the classics also, like Mehdi
Noor
Hassan,
Jahan. Noor Jahan is also not classical,
yeah,
like
Noor
solely
Jahan, film singers, yeah,
film singers. Who was the brother sister duo,
Nazia Zoeb.
Nazia Zohaib. Nazia Hassan is also in that list in terms of Wo. So yeah, it's a bit sobering when you think of it that way. Uh, that now Atif is also on that list because
He
like
must be.
he has to be.
Like he has to be, and in a way, I think he's bigger than a lot of these people.
Yeah.
Like you can describe bigness in on many axes, like
Hmm.
how much they've influenced other musicians, how
Sure.
like you can look at kind of musicality and how they have changed the
Yeah.
brand of music. You can
Yeah.
look at just sheer number of people that they reach. But I think, yeah, if you look at it
With
in terms
where
of sheer,
technology is also like a force multiplier
sure,
now, which
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
exist at that time. But yeah, because Vital Signs I think was finished before Junoon became a big thing, and Junoon had a lot of mainstream global appeal.
India, yeah. Junoon had a big
Yeah.
India appeal, some I think like Western appeal as well.
Hmm.
Uh, Atif feels like he is at Junoon level to me,
I'd say so. Yeah.
right? Like if Atif performed anywhere in the world, he would
Yeah.
attract the crowd that Junoon would at their peak.
Yeah.
I find that I didn't see Junoon live at their peak abroad,
No, no. Yeah.
but I would say that from what I understand of how big those concerts were, that Atif would probably
Yeah. Oh,
be
Strings
in
is
that
also
same
in there.
league.
I'd say Strings is
Strings,
also.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because
I
I'd
think
say Strings is actually closer to Atif than perhaps Junoon. Because Strings is
interesting.
also semi-modern in terms of where they're placed era-wise, post 2000s. So they did have some technology that they could be.
Strings had a big Bollywood moment.
They had a
Like
big
their
Bollywood
Bollywood
moment.
moment was huge.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
Mm.
They were going to be on the soundtrack. I
No,
don't know.
the Zinda soundtrack with John Ibrahim
Yeah,
and Sanjay Dutt, and then John
yeah,
Ibrahim showed up in a video as an angel. Like that was a lot.
yeah, yeah. They tapered off pretty heavily after the first couple albums after their return. Their
Dhani was the peak for
Dani was
Strings.
the super peak. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I don't know
I
if
don't look
Atif.
back at Atif's career as having peaked.
No, no, no.
It
Nor has
doesn't.
there been such a tapering off. There
I
has
don't
been
think
in the
so. Like,
sense that he's not doing Bollywood anymore. He was very
sure,
popular
yeah,
in
but I
Bollywood.
don't. I don't think about looking back at Atif's career as like, oh, he was much bigger 5 years ago or 6 years ago than he is
Yeah,
now at any point in his career. I
yeah,
don't think. Like
yeah,
he's only become bigger. Can definitely like I can totally imagine if he comes to the US, he would fill a stadium,
yeah.
no
Despite
question.
despite not having like every single year there's a release. Like there might have been years with lower Atif presence, but then
Right.
when he comes back, his overall thing just increases.
Right.
And
And he will definitely attract a diaspora India crowd despite not having Bollywood releases in the present, because
in a
his
while, yeah,
Bollywood releases have been so big that they are
yeah,
still a thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
like if Atif goes to London, will Atif attract a big crowd? Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and so I think the one place where you can look back at other artists maybe is that perhaps Atif, in terms of musicality, does not change the direction of genres as much as everybody else does. Um, but I think to Atif's credit, what he does is that he changes his own music
yeah,
so much to
yeah.
fit the present. Like in a way, that's how he has ridden the wave. Like Junoon, and for example,
Mm.
um, let's take Junoon. Right, I think Junoon did not change in their own music as much as they changed the course of the
Yeah,
rest of the rock industry.
yeah.
Nusrat is similar also, where I think
Mm.
Nusrat had a lot of evolution, but Nusrat has a greater impact on the scene than the scene did on Nusrat. But I'm not sure that's true of Atif.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like if you say what is the Atif sound, there are many, right?
Right.
Whereas with the others, like Junoon is what became known as Sufi rock. That is Junoon. Junoon isn't doing like cool play style, softer music, and they're not going heavier than they were usually. No, that makes sense.
The
Yeah.
one way that I think Atif does impact the industry is the sort of amount of money that he generates and the sort of how regular of a band Atif has kind of underneath him. I think like Atif's band is like a big deal. Like if you're playing with Atif across the
Really?
world,
Okay.
I mean, imagine that, right? Like this
Yeah,
is
yeah, of
basically
course.
the most important Pakistani creative act
Mm.
in terms of a regular gig that
Yeah,
you can probably get,
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
especially in terms of presentation to the world, is being in Atif's band. And I
Mm.
think with the amount of money that Atif generates and with the amount that he puts back into the industry in terms of that, like in terms of the sort of the videos he makes, the music he makes, the people that he has to have on the song, like I think all of the what was the Kayas band was
Mm.
basically in that Atif circle for the
Yeah,
longest time.
yeah.
So now I think there's a different group of people, but uh, yeah, I think Atif has a huge
Because
impact
you
on
know
the
that
scene in that
different
way.
group of people, there were a lot of these session musicians who ended up being in like Karakoram,
Hmm.
and they ended up going out and making their own thing when the COVID stop happened, and there were no sessions to be had. They just did their own thing, and they were so good, which is why they were session musicians for those people, that their own actual product was also worth standing up on its own feet, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
like I mean, if you think about Gumby, for example,
yeah.
session musician, toured with Vital Signs and Junoon before he
Mm.
then started
Nuri.
doing his own work, like
Yeah.
Nuri, and then everything else after. So I think that level of impact is also worth acknowledging.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
So
Um,
yeah, team Atif all the way. Come at me.
yeah, I will allow him to continue to make music. um, वो जो है, two things before we end. One, very important corrections. We've now made so many episodes that people have responded to the episodes and things we say are being noted. So Zee Pangash followed the podcast and she was like very happy that people are doing music related discussions. And immediately I wanted to delete everything we'd done because I was like, oh no, Zee Pangash.
You're listening to us. Oh no.
Yeah. But chalo, yeah, ठीक है. I think this does sort of push my egotistical, ambitions of I don't think anybody's really talking about music, and Zeerak is, and I want to do it, so maybe I'll get Zeerak, and we'll do the same thing.
Done.
So eventually, world domination is what we're aiming for. Second thing, Arsalan pointed out very hilariously. We talked about English lyrics in music, and Arsalan is a singer who had a song that we talked about, where we might have mentioned offhand that it was a bold decision for him to do a verse in English. And he said he's very happy that we mentioned the song, and also pointed out it was just one line. To
Not
which,
only not
yeah,
only did we say
yeah,
that we talk about English lyrics in a song, we based the entire discussion upon the fact that there was too much English in this
yeah,
song.
yeah. How
And
brave.
I think I confidently said that there is वो आसिम अजहर के हबीबी गाने में तो सर एक दो लाइनें हैं और
Yeah,
इसमें तो स्टैंजा है पूरा.
yeah, yeah.
So I think the moral of the story is, if you're going to be stupid, do it with confidence.
Yeah. No, and
And then you
also
will.
where it might have been just a line, as he claimed about his own song.
I checked. I think Arsalan is correct about his own
Yeah.
life.
the impact of that one line was as much as a whole verse. Uh,
Good save.
yeah, yeah. I thought I was.
We're like, आसान अंग्रेजी तुमने इतनी बोली तो नहीं लेकिन लगी हमें बहुत
Yeah.
ज्यादा.
So
I don't think this is on him.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Generally, I find myself trying to not accept any blame.
yeah,
So now it is his fault
this
somehow.
is you being young. So good
Yeah.
for you. I think this is you showing that you still have 20-year-old problems.
Yeah.
Arsalan, thank you for writing in. Sorry,
Yeah. Yeah.
we will check our facts a little bit more. I think the
Huh.
thing that was even sadder is that last podcast, I even made the joke that this is a podcast, so I can say factually incorrect things, not actually intending to say factually incorrect things. I just made that as a joke, but clearly it
Yeah.
was foreshadowing. So
Yeah.
next time I will be more careful.
It's great. It's great. We have a whole
Uh,
Roundup universe developing in my mind. I don't know. Lots
ठीक
of
है
people are saying.
चार बंदे counts as a universe, right? Three is company,
Yeah.
four is the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them is Zeerak.
Yeah.
So
And in
yeah.
the four include the two of us.
Yes.
So
The other thing I want to talk about again our favorite but foreign accusations of nepotism aa jayenge. Natasha Noorani through no fault of her own. I was thinking, yaar,
is
matlab,
married to me. I
yeah,
believe there is some fault of her own here. Like
huh,
is
huh, huh. No,
huh.
no, through no fault of her own that she's in the list. Because, like, were it not Zeerak making the list, this is a new song. It came out. She's a big deal. And the song is great. तो जो भी लिस्ट बनाएगा, again, not accepting any blame.
कोई भी बनाएगा तो उसमें
हाँ,
होगा ही. Yeah,
this
तो
would
उसमें
have
होगा
shown logically.
जल जल का आदत. Don't tell me that you listen to the Jal Adat version. Actually, sorry.
I
Pause.
did. Of course I did.
You
Because the
prefer
album
the
came out.
Jal Adat version to the
Oh,
Atif Adat version?
yeah. So I feel
This
like
is no. This is not an acceptable
music,
response.
even the
Pause.
beginning, I feel like
Because
musically and
uh-huh.
production wise, it is better. Because I think they had more time to make it. And usme bhi, because hipster, there was a Bikra Hu Main version, which is sort of like, as one person hilariously in my A levels said, it's like Jawab Adat, as if to say Jawab Shikwa. And I was like, I hate all of this. This
जवाब
entire,
आदत I will give you.
yeah.
Okay. जवाब
So
आदत I will give you,
I
but
think
I will
musically
point
I
out
found
that
those.
your
Huh.
pause before you accepted that you listen to the Jal Adat version indicates that you also are aware that you are wrong. Um,
I feel like, given how things have played out, had Atif been relegated to the halls of history and not become the biggest, I would have been like, I was right. But now that he's so big and also has done so much good stuff, I'm like, how right was I?
I
Given,
encourage you to introspect over this
yeah,
next week.
yeah, something I refuse to do generally. um,
No, sorry, coming back.
Yeah,
Um,
Laiyan Laiyan. This was my favorite song in her Boiler Room performance, where a version of this, an early version or a stripped down version of this was done. I was very interested. Oh, this is not also this is not a very Natasha Noorani song because she's done so many different things as well. The song came out and video bhi achhi hai and everything's great, and then I see कि your name is also there, and I was like, oh shit, this is like really spreading your wings. I don't know. I started very strong, but I lost sort of
Wings
where I
is
was going.
a interesting choice of words, given that we have just talked about John Abraham
Yeah,
in the Strings video.
yeah.
Well,
So, great song. Nothing really to say about this song being good or bad. It's great. What did you do in this song? Is
हाँ, मैं सिर्फ उधर मौजूद था. No,
right.
Natasha is generous to give me a writing credit.
Hmm.
I was lucky enough to be able to help her kind of
Okay.
write some of the words to the song.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. I think she's talked about this in other places. Part of the writing of the song is using imagery and tropes that are well known in
Hmm.
Pakistani music, and
Hmm.
then using them in new ways.
Yeah.
So Laiyan, the word itself, I think is that's Natasha brought that idea in, and she had like a full song fleshed out. So really, I didn't do much except for now I can
Encouragement.
talk about this and claim credit. Yes, encouragement.
Yeah.
I hope. It's so I think her looking at it in the context of the rest of Natasha's work makes this even more interesting. So her
Hmm.
work is as a musician, but also as a music historian. So she looks at 60s, 70s, 80s Pakistani film music, any older kind of vinyl from film soundtracks, as well as individual singers. And so she studies that a lot and sees the sort of impact on the culture and kind of how it's been erased. And so for her, these influences show up now in her music. And so
Yeah.
the idea of using this sort of this imagery that's been used before, so Laiyan just as kind of language terms, dil lagana, um, it's been used quite a bit. So that's the sort of genesis of the whole song. There's a kite flying stanza also in there,
Mm.
which is very like Faria Parvez.
Yeah.
So there's like these references
Faria
that
Pervez
are
also
done.
cannot escape her first biggest hit. I mean, that is forever in people's minds. That is the
Just such a
first thing.
such a big hit.
It was such a crazy like hit. Yeah, exactly. And the song
Yeah,
was obviously amazing. And the sort of
Faria
like
Parvez
a
had some great songs.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sort of.
Um, please show up on the podcast. Uh, I like that I'm not just inviting people on your behalf. So
I'm
there's
keep.
that. Yeah.
Uh,
And then I think the video is done in a very not backward looking way.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's a very kind of forward looking video with all of these
Mm,
kind of references. So I think that's the kind of genesis of the song, and that kind of helps frame where it's
yeah,
from.
yeah. Still not sure what you did.
Neither am I. So
I
I think you'll have to talk to
just say
Natasha on that
you're
one.
not being evasive. It's are you being evasive? I mean, maybe you are, which would make this more mysterious.
No, so I helped her with the words a
Acha.
little bit, but I think she
Sure.
came in with a she credited me as a lyric writer, which I think is a little bit generous. She
Yeah,
had a song kind of through, and then
yeah.
and I was able to help her with it, which was nice.
Great. I mean, my interest in this was, it just so happens that you are connected. And by connected, I mean married to Natasha. But
Ah,
also, now you're also interested at least in working on music rather than just talking about music, you know?
yeah. So my career as a failed musician may still have
Yeah.
some hopes left in it. No, no, no. I don't think my future is in the music industry making the music.
Sure.
But
But
it's
maybe.
nice to be able to help.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to do a bit of the artwork.
Oh, you did the
So
artwork also?
yeah, it's
Oh, wow. Okay. Next
credit
episode.
pade boss.
Please listen to the
No,
song, but also go through the credits in great
uh,
detail.
no, it was a lot of fun. I really like working with Natasha, so
Right.
it's a
It
joy.
would be very awkward if you said I hated the process. मुझे
Honestly, knowing the two of us, we can, if you had us both on the podcast together, a fight is
yeah,
likely to break out.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
future blockbuster episode upcoming.
बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल.
Husband wife duo fight
Yeah,
about who deserves credit on their song together.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll just watch. Just like drop in the most
Tiliyan. हाँ.
incendiary words. Okay.
And then chop it really well and
Yeah,
put
yeah,
in
yeah.
the Karan Johar music
Yeah,
whenever
yeah,
one
yeah.
of us turns.
And I'll drop in cold hours behind wherever it fits.
Yes.
Full
Yes.
circle. Mashallah. Thank you very much for listening. That's the end of the episode. Comments, questions, complaints, corrections. Please engage. Okay. Thanks, Zeerak.